Welcome back to the crossover. I'm your host, Rohan Nadkarni, joined today by two of my most handsome colleagues, Ben Pickman and Michael Pina. Guys, we've seen a lot of star turns here early in the playoffs. Trey Young, Devin Booker, Deandre, and just to name a few guys who've really taken their game to the next level during the playoffs. Michael, let me start with you. Out of the first round so far, which player has impressed you the most with their play?
I'm going with Luka Doncic, and it's not that I wasn't, impressed with him before this playoff series began, but sometimes it's easy to overlook an established star who regularly makes the ridiculous look routine. And right now, Luka should be an exception. What he's done in 2 games against a contender that has one of the best defenses in the league is really hard to process. The averages are wild: 35 points, 9 assists, 8.5 rebounds. He's efficient shooting the ball everywhere except the free throw line, and he has the highest usage rate in the playoffs. But what's more impressive to me is just how Luka is manipulating the Clippers on defense. Patrick Beverly and Ivica Zubac are basically unplayable now going forward because of him. When Kawhi Leonard is defending him, Kawhi ducks under screens. Luka just hits step back threes in his face. It's jarring. Luka's game right now just has an answer for everything that the Clippers are throwing at him. And when his teammates are hitting the open shots that his presence creates, they're basically unbeatable.
You can't argue with what Michael is saying, but I'm going to go to a player who I think the casual fan knows less about, who's really improved his stock, and that would be Dillon Brooks of the Memphis Grizzlies. You look at Dillon Brooks, and this is a little bit of cheating, but since the play-in tournament, he's really elevated his star level, guarding Steph Curry and doing a pretty stout job both in the final regular season game and in the play-in tournament. And then you look in this postseason, in these 2 games against Utah, he's been maybe Memphis's best player, right up there with Ja Morant, right? He scored 31 points in game 1. He had 23 points in that game 2 loss on 10 of 14 shooting. He's really become a stout defender. He is developed into a really impressive part, an important part of that Grizzlies team. You listen to a lot of people in that organization, and the word they always throw out with Dillon Brooks is passion, and he brings them a lot of passion, a lot of energy on a nightly basis. And for a second-round pick, he's really carved out a stable role in the league with the Memphis Grizzlies. He's had a really good end of the regular season, play-in tournament, and start to the postseason. And he's someone who, is developing to a core piece of that franchise. And it's really interesting and kind of great to watch him rise the way he has.
Yeah, obviously those guys have all played great. I'm going to cheat a little bit on this one, guys, and give you a duo, actually, and that's the Suns duo of Devin Booker and Deandre Ayton. And the real reason why I'm going with both those guys is I think that they actually had a lot to prove during these playoffs. For years, the knock on the Suns was Devin Booker's just a scorer. It doesn't really matter what he does. It's not going to count on a good team. DeAndre Ayton, his entire career, has been the guy who went number 1 in the draft that also had Luka Doncic and Trey Young. And here both of them are in their first playoff round against an opponent that most sort of picked as the title favorite coming into the season, holding their own. I thought Devin Booker was the best player on the floor in game 1. DeAndre Ayton was the best big on the floor in that game. And I think what's most important for the Suns, it's Booker holding up defensively, and it's Ayton, frankly, not being played off the floor in a playoff series. That's really important for the Suns moving forward. Chris Paul, as great as he is on the back 9 of his career. He's not going to be there forever. Eventually, the torch is going to have to be passed to these guys, and I think it's going to be important for them to be the pillars of a team that's supposed to be one of the best in the West eventually. I'm curious, Ben. I want to know from you. Do you think Booker and Ayton? Am I just gassing them up too much, or do you see them being guys who can be cornerstones of a competitive team moving forward?
No, I don't think you're gassing them up at all, and I don't even think it's a matter of moving forward. I think they can be cornerstones right now, and they're going to have to be, right? With Chris Paul dealing with the injury, they're going to need, the Phoenix Suns are, even more from Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton than they have already gotten this series, right? You mentioned it. Ayton, we came into this series thinking it was a mismatch. He would be maybe a little unplayable, but he's more than held his own against Anthony Davis and been really productive on the offensive end of the floor. And Devin Booker has shown through his stat lines and his production that he's going to, he's well deserving of that star billing. He's probably going to need to be even more aggressive throughout the remainder of this first round series and beyond if they advance, considering Chris Paul's injury. But No, I think you hit the nail on the head, Ro. You know, these are two cornerstone pieces, two franchise level guys, and especially when you surround them with the core that Phoenix has, and you wrote about that earlier this week, right? They've built a really strong core around those guys, strong rotation players. Phoenix really is building something that could go on a deep playoff run, could be very special. It might be this year, it might not be because of this Lakers matchup, but certainly I think they're on the up and up for years to come.
You know, that's really why I love the playoffs, guys. It proves at the highest level which guys really belong on the floor in a high stakes NBA game. For more, check us out on SI.com.